I'm ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, live.
Good evening. Welcome to Buncombe County Board of Education regular meeting. Tonight, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome John Henning, our attorney, and Ashley Leonard, she's an attorney too, so I'll welcome both of them. At this time, I have a statement I'd like to read. First, we want to make everyone aware of our updated face covering policy. As you know, Governor Cooper recently released a new executive order regarding masks. Anyone is welcome to continue wearing a mask covering in our buildings. As there are currently no students on our campus this summer, people will have been vaccinated and are no longer required to wear a mask. Those who are not vaccinated are strongly encouraged to wear a mask. Also, we want to clarify our procedures that are currently in place for public comment. First, it is policy to provide a public comment section during all regular board meetings. However, due to COVID-19 restrictions and concerns, we've had to modify that process in order to protect the health and safety of our Buncombe County school visitors and staff. Tonight, like this past year, we are asking our public comment speakers to follow specific safety protocols. Among those measures is that visitors are allowed in the building to speak one at a time, and they must adhere to our 3-minute time limit per board policy. If our speakers cannot follow our safety protocols, they will not be able to participate in public comment. Additionally, we always welcome email from Buncombe County school parents and staff to express any concerns that they may have. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tonight, our virtual presentation of colors and Pledge of Allegiance is from Owen High School. They are instructed by JROTC instructor Sergeant First Class Jeffrey Garland, Army retired, and senior, senior instructor Lieutenant Colonel Brooke King, Army retired. Please rise.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I ask that you remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time on the agenda, we will begin our public comment.
Greetings, board members. First, I want to thank you for your work and commitment to our children and youth through supporting and guiding public education. And thank you for this time you have allowed me to speak to you this evening My name is Millie Morrow, and I am a parent of a child in our public education system, and I am a priest of the Episcopal Church here in Asheville. Before becoming ordained in the Episcopal Church, I was a social worker in East Tennessee. As a social worker, I went into the public schools across 17 counties of East Tennessee and talked to children and youth and teachers about what we then called personal body safety. My job was to tell these sweet children that difficult truth that sometimes children are hurt even by trusted adults. As you can imagine, this is a difficult conversation to have, but unfortunately necessary, as 1 in 4 of our children is sexually abused before they turn 18. Now, parents had the option to opt out of these conversations for their children if it made them feel uncomfortable. So there were always kids that had to leave before I began to speak. But the goal of education isn't to create comfortable spaces. Our job in education is to teach our children to think critically and to build resiliency to problem solve and hopefully become adults who can work to create a better world where perhaps these difficult conversations aren't necessary. Wouldn't that be nice? Hiding the truth doesn't make people safer, but hiding the truth might make a few people more comfortable. Our state has voted in House Bill 324 to make certain topics of our country's history illegal. Supporters of that bill say that it would keep people from being made to feel guilty due to their race or their past actions of their race, and it would protect the dignity of all. I am sure that parents who chose to opt out of the conversations about sexual abuse thought that they were protecting their children too, but as a social worker and a parent, I know the fact that it makes them even more vulnerable to not have these conversations. Hiding the truth never protects the dignity of any person. Hiding the truth only protects the comfort of a few. So I ask, whose dignity are we protecting by not talking about the truth of racism and white supremacy in this country? And who really is being protected by House Bill 324? Banning certain conversations does nothing for our children. Banning conversations in public schools only protects the comfort of a few, and there is nothing public about that. Thank you for listening, and as it looks outside, you all have my deepest prayers and appreciations. Peace.
Thank you. I'd like to call our next public comment, please. Please step up to the microphone for public comment. We all ready for our next public comment, please?
Yes.
Be just a moment.
Hello, I'm one of the white supremacists who is in favor of House Bill 324. That just irritates the hell out of me. My name is James Fulton. I'm in Arden. On May 5th, I spent time organizing my thoughts and rehearsing how to condense them into a 3-minute blurb. Then on Thursday, I arranged to leave my office early so that I could drive across town to present those comments at your meeting. I signed in as instructed to secure my spot for providing comments. However, roughly 45 to 60 minutes later, your guard ordered everyone who was waiting outside to leave the premises or possibly face arrest for disorderly conduct. While I was not a member of the large group of constitutional purists who were negotiating for entry, I certainly left the premises as a member of that group. I emailed you the next day to express my outrage at how you had treated your constituents. I wrote to my county commissioner representatives last week to ask that an item be added to this week's county commissioner meeting agenda. They declined. I also wrote to Ms. Matthews with a similar request for this board to propose a resolution in support of North Carolina House Bill 324. Ms. Matthews replied that this item will not be on the agenda, but you can speak for 3 minutes during public comment and leave materials for the board to review. So I asked if I could make a presentation to the board at today's meeting. Ms. Matthews wrote back that the board had said no to my request to make a formal presentation and that it was not added to the agenda. No reason given, just no. So the May 23rd front page of the Citizens Times published an article about a city council member, Gwen Whistler, who had threatened a constituent that she would reach out to her employers and advertisers to punish her for writing a magazine article with which Ms. Whistler must not have agreed. Why do elected officials think that they can treat constituents this way? I had hoped that proposal of a pro HB 324 resolution on this agenda might result in a discussion among yourselves in public that would allow us to understand your positions on bringing critical race theory into schools. However, I'm guessing, which I shouldn't have to do, I'm guessing that you would be against House Bill 324. It is also clear that you do not want to discuss the fact that you continue to require children to wear masks at school when there is no scientific evidence to support a belief that this is necessary. I do not agree that you know best and that I should just shut up and keep paying my taxes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Please resign and allow us to replace you with less arrogant board members who will listen to taxpaying parents and grandparents.
I'm calling for a recess. Thank you. I'm going to call the meeting back in order, and at this time, I'm going to recognize our attorney, John Henning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, the Buncombe County Board of Education is under the same legal obligation as are all public education boards in the state of North Carolina to provide a period of public comment at each of your regular meetings. It is explicitly to be provided under peaceable circumstances in which your meeting is not disrupted and you aren't prevented from moving on with the business of the school district that you were elected and appointed to run. I know that this board and your administration has spent weeks now working on a method that would allow folks to sign up under the reasonable time, place, and manner guidelines that you have set as a board and a district. You provided a period that was taken advantage of by a couple of members of the public tonight, and it is extremely unfortunate that some forces have combined outside of this building to prevent all of the other folks who have signed up under those reasonable guidelines that let you conduct your business and are preventing them from accessing the building. And so I can tell you as a legal matter and a practical matter, you have satisfied your obligation to do that, and it's my advice to you that you move on at this point with the rest of the business of the board without any further public comment period for this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Henning. At this time, I'll recognize Dr. Baldwin for his superintendent comments.
Believe it or not, let's focus on our students. It's hard to believe, but high school graduations will be closing out our 2020-2021 school year this Saturday. I want to make the board and the public aware, if you do not already have these dates and times on your calendar, at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, Owen, Inca, and Irwin high schools will hold graduation ceremonies in their stadiums. Reynolds will follow at 11 o'clock. That ceremony will take place at the Harris Center, indoors. North Buncombe will follow at 2 o'clock, and Robertson will conclude the ceremonies again at the Harris Center starting at 5 o'clock. We have 3 of our non-traditional high schools that will hold graduation at UNC Asheville. Again, this is on Saturday. Nesbitt Discovery Academy will begin at 10 o'clock in the morning, and early college and middle college will combine their ceremonies at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Early congratulations to all of those potential graduates as they cross that stage. And what a year to cross our stage. Summer school for grades K through 12 will begin a 6-week schedule of Mondays through Thursdays on June 14th. This comprehensive effort, unlike none other since I've certainly been in this school system, of recovery will take place on 13 of our school campuses across the district. And it will host around 3,250 students. And that will include 2,400 that come from grades K through 4. And finally, I want to extend an enthusiastic BCS welcome to our 7 new principals for the 2021-22 school year. They are outstanding leaders. Carrie Lynch at Avery's Creek Elementary, Gina Toomey at Buncombe County Virtual Academy. This is the first year that will be an official school for our school district. Chip Cody at Irwin High School, Jean Ann Yates at Hominy Valley Elementary, Katie Harris at Pisgah Elementary, Christy Jones at W.D. Williams, and Nick Honeycutt at Weaverville Primary. Congratulations to all of these outstanding school leaders. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. At this time, we will do good news. Ms. Harris.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Baldwin, members of the board. For our good news item this evening, we would like to have David Roney, our Director of Transportation, and Kay Thorpe with Asheville Oil Company come to the podium. Tonight, we'd like to recognize our Tracy Lee Calhoun Bus Driver of the Year. So Mr. Roney will introduce this special driver to us, and Ms. Thorpe will tell us more about the significance of this award.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Baldwin, members of the school board. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to make a very special presentation. Tonight, we will present the Buncombe County School Bus Driver of the Year Award. But before I do that, I do want to introduce Ms. Kay Thorpe, who's with us from Asheville Oil, and she will share just briefly why this award is so special.
And first of all, I'd like to say it's so good to be back here this year. I missed last year. But as many of you know, the Tracy Lee Calhoun Award was established by the North Carolina Petroleum and Convenience Marketers in recognition of a young 17-year-old who worked at an oil company, and she was killed in a school bus accident when the school bus ran a stop sign. So this is to focus awareness on safety and the tremendous responsibility these bus drivers have. Catherine and I were talking before, and it is amazing. This starts the child's school day off when they get on that bus and the bus driver says, "Good morning. I'm glad to see you this morning." So it's just an honor and a privilege for me as a member of Asheville Oil, Smoky Mountain Heating and Air. It's a family-owned business, and I think most of you can remember the bus number that you wrote. I was on bus 113 with Mr. Bradley at Bell Elementary. So it gives me great pleasure to present the Tracy Lee Calhoun Award to you, Catherine.
Take that back, because I'm going to do the same thing. So. It's all right. It's all right. Thank you, Ms. Thorpe. As Ms. Thorpe said, each year Buncombe County Schools recognizes a Bus Driver of the Year. But before I do that, I do want to turn back the clock just a little bit, if you'll allow me to do that. Let's go back to March 12th of 2020. If you had looked on the Buncombe County Schools website and looked up the job description for a bus driver, here's what you would have found. The job of a bus driver is to safely perform the duties of driving the bus, following all safety precautions, and see that all passenger pickups and drop-offs are made safely while following all taught procedures. One day later, that job description changed. And if you would have looked it up one day later, you would have found something that had been rewritten to sound a little bit like this. The job of a bus driver is to deliver food to our students, clean bathrooms in our school buildings, deliver homework packets to students who were unable to access internet for remote learning, cut grass around our schools, use a weed eater, use a leaf blower, deliver computers and hotspots and other technology equipment so students can engage in online learning, move furniture in our classrooms so we can physically distance students when they return to in-person learning, paint hallways, work in the main office at the schools to help answer parent phone calls and questions, devise a bus route that brings in students on A day and the other half on B day, develop relationships and support students that are struggling more than ever due to the constant changes of COVID, clean the bus, disinfect the bus, sanitize the bus, ensure that the students are safe on the bus and physically distant, model safe COVID-19 protocols on the bus, and oh yeah, perform the duties of driving the bus following all safety precautions and see that all passenger pickups and drop-offs are made safely following all taught procedures. What a difference a year makes. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you this evening knowing that not only did Buncombe County Schools have a successful year, we did so in part due to the bus drivers going way above and way beyond their normal job duties. With that being said, I want to recognize one special person amongst a county full of special people. The administrator of this particular driver said about her, and I quote, "She never hesitates to dish out the tough love when needed to help a kid grow or go the extra mile to make a kid smile." During the pandemic, this lady handmade masks for students at Sandhill Venable Elementary and the transportation staff at the bus garage. complete with unicorns and superheroes, which is appropriate because our bus drivers this year truly have been superheroes. Unfortunately for us, this year's winner will be retiring after 30 years of service to Buncombe County Schools. However, she is truly the definition of a bus driver. I could go on, but suffice it to say, it gives me great pleasure to award the Buncombe County Schools Bus Driver of the Year Award to Ms. Catherine Goforth.
I'd just like to say thank you. And through my years of driving the school bus, I have actually tried to get people to join it. Just anybody can't be a bus driver. I remember one time a lady drove my bus one time. She drove it that time and she never got to come back. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't get them up front.
Concludes good news for this evening.
Ms. Harris, are you finished? Thank you. That concludes good news. Thank you. And it's great news. It's past good news. It's great news. Okay, we're moving on to the action agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the 2020-2021 budget amendment. Do members of the board have questions for Ms. Thorpe?
I have one question. First of all, I would like to congratulate Ms. Thorpe on her new position and her first meeting being in the hot seat answering these questions, so thank you.
Thank you.
Very pleased to have you in that role. So this budget amendment shows the big influx of federal funds for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. And as I look at it, trying to find it here, they're sort of in two big chunks rather than broken out. At least when I look at the federal funds, it's hard for me to see what they're designated for. And so what I'm trying to understand is if I look further to later on in this document, does it show me how those funds are broken out? Or can you tell us a little bit more about how they're broken out?
Okay. Let me explain that a little bit. So what DPI did is they just, this is for tracking purposes, they put it in two PRCs only. So ESSER 2, which is the first year, is in PRC 171, and that's all you see for the $22 million. Then they broke out and said, okay, we're going to track ESSER 3, which is in PRC 181, and that's the $49 million that you see. So it looks like it's in two buckets. It is in two buckets for DPI. They're going to be tracking and pulling all this data. So what they did is they've allowed us to set up multiple purpose codes underneath that. And as you all know, we started back in March under Ms. Swanger's direction. We developed 8 subcommittees, and then we put together right at 600 stakeholders that was part of these committees. You were part of one, where we went through and identified all of the different needs that we have under these 8 subcommittees. And that includes like 12 categories for like learning loss, academics, SEL, which is family and student support, air quality, facilities, technology. So all of these funds are going to cover a wide variety of not only employment, but reaching out to try to combat that learning loss that we've experienced through the COVID.
And so we're tracking them in those same 8 categories that we had the subcommittees? Okay.
Yes, we've developed a very lengthy budget, but under those 8 categories is how we have them rolling up. So we're tracking that regularly, and we'll be having to do amendments as necessary.
Did we receive these funds in one big chunk, or are they sending them to us monthly, or how are they dispersing the funds?
So technically, they allotted, meaning they budget, they gave us 22 million and 49 million and some change. But how we do that is we start processing invoices, POs, and then we have to request the funding from the state. They hold it at the state. We have to request it as we spend it, and then we have a 3-day rule that we have to send it back.
So it's more on a reimbursement basis that
it's completely on that.
I see. Okay,
It's not,
that's helpful.
Yeah, it's not sitting in our bank account.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Is that all? Are there any
Other board members? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Thorpe. I will entertain a motion to approve this agenda item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve this budget amendment.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Buncombe County, the next item, Buncombe County Schools District Mental Health Plan. That's, Mr. Thompson is in charge. Do board members have questions for Mr. Thompson? Hearing none, I will just say that it was a very extensive report that we read. Could I get a motion to approve?
So moved. And I'd also like to just say that I appreciate all the work that David and his team have done on this.
Exactly. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is Koontz Intermediate School Continuation of School Uniform Plan, and that's Mr. Bright and Ms. Swanger. Are there questions from the board?
I had a few questions for either Ms. Swanger or Mr.
Bright.
Bright, whoever wants to come.
Good evening.
Thank you. All right.
Hey, so, Mr. Bright, I appreciated the information that you gave us, and your request certainly sounds reasonable to me. I just wanted to know if maybe you could just give a few comments as to what kind of feedback that you're hearing from the students and the members of our Koontz community with regards to the uniform policy and how it's been going over the last couple of years.
Sure. Well, I will tell you, when I first came on board, I've been a principal at Koontz for 4 years. When I first came there, I got a lot of questions from parents. And now, after 4 years, we've gotten to the point that I really don't get a lot of questions from parents. It's become a part of the community, a part of the expectation, the culture of our school. So really the only questions I get are questions that parents asked from the office staff about the colors, where can they purchase them, those kinds of things. So after 6 years, it's really just become the expectation when parents come to us.
That's great to hear. And when you talk about questions about where to go and purchase these items, I know in the beginning we had, maybe some stricter guidelines, but over the years, as pilots usually turn out, you tweak things when you find better ideas. And so my understanding is that these uniforms can be purchased very reasonably at places like Walmart and Target, all
Yes.
the way up to Land's End?
Parents can purchase them anywhere.
Okay.
And that's one of the things when I came on board. I came from a district that had a lot of uniform schools. So we're all about flexibility and providing grace, especially this year because, you know, we've had many different plans and we've had kids that didn't come into the building until the last 9 weeks of school. So we've worked, we have a closed closet. We have uniforms that we can give any families that need them. We also encourage donations, so a lot of our 6th grade parents will donate them at the end of the year so that we can provide them if needed. And again, we just understand that there are going to be situations like a kid may go to spend the weekend at grandma's house and they forget to pack, you know, the uniform shirt. So again, one of the things I really worked on is not being very rigid and just, you know, having uniforms available for kids that need them. But again, you know, just, you know, having grace. We know accidents and things are going to happen.
Great. Well, I appreciate it, and I have no doubt that your school improvement team will continue to do a fine job monitoring this, and we're going to leave it in your capable hands.
Well, thank you.
Other board members have questions? Thank you, Mr. Bright. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
I move that we approve this item on the agenda.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is the award of sole source for stop arm cameras for Buncombe County school buses. That's Mr. Roney and Ms. Thorpe. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is the award of contract for Buncombe County Schools Security Guard Services. That's Ms. Thorpe and Mr. Huff. Any questions from the board?
I have questions that I think are for Mr. Huff rather than for Ms. Thorpe. Is he in the room?
He stepped out.
Okay, well, maybe Dr. Baldwin can answer them. This is really more for the public, I think, but just to talk about why it's important that we have security officers and what they do that is different from our school resource officers.
Those security guards' primary responsibility is really visitors coming into the campus, the morning entrance, in the afternoon, and anything in between. I think, again, based upon what we've seen over the years in terms of the heightened need for security and eyes and ears and communication, they play a very valuable part. They also, I think all of you are aware, at our high schools, we do allow students to drive. Now, this year was a little bit abstract, but those cars will soon return and those parking spaces will be used. And they do serve the purpose of just constantly checking through that parking lot to maintain again, the security from that end as well. So they do serve a very valuable purpose for our schools, our high schools.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is the approval of summer school contracts. That's Mr. Probst and Ms. Swanger. Are there questions from the board on this item?
I don't have questions so much as just a very heartfelt comment that I wanted to just say to the individuals that are behind these contracts, how much I appreciate them being willing to help us out for these few weeks. I know it is truly going above and beyond the call of duty. I am so grateful, and this does go to show that, that our staff, their main goal is our students, and they work very hard to achieve success and make sure that those students are successful. And I just really wanted to publicly say thank you so much for doing what you do.
I think this summer's going to be real exciting for the students that choose to come. And I appreciate all the work that the curriculum department has done in creating some different things for students to experience during the summer. I, too, am very thankful. Any other comments from board members? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is policy for approval, and we're waiving the first reading of this policy. This is Ms. Thorpe. It's policy 8305R. It's the Federal Grant Administration Procurement Procedures. And I guess it has a lot to do with ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. She's shaking her head yes. I would entertain, are there questions from board members?
I guess that pretty much answers my question. I was assuming that the reason for foregoing the reading was the timeliness of these funds.
Yes, I think we probably have to have a policy that's in line with what's happening. So I would entertain a motion to...
Madam Chair, I have
Yes.
another comment. In reading this, am I to understand that this is only applicable to the federal funds and not to the state funds as far as these levels?
Shaking her head, yes. You probably need to...
Madam Chair, I might be able to save Ms. Thorpe the trip. I know more about the uniform guidance than I ever meant to, I promise. There are federal guidelines about how you go about procurement with federal funds. One of those guidelines is what's called, it's sort of a level at which you get to relax the intensity with which you do things like bidding. And essentially, this raises that up to the new federally provided limit of $250,000. It was at $100,000. Am I close?
That is correct, and also his name is Connor Cruz. He's with DPI and with the federal guidelines. They are recommending that all LEAs change the micro threshold. The state is at 10,000 and federal guidelines, and they're recommending that all of us immediately get it changed to 50,000 in order to push these high requisitions out as quickly as we can with the ESSER funds to get that money spent appropriately.
Okay.
So
Now, did you say that that would be applicable to the state funds as well? Is that what you're saying, getting the state funds changed? Okay.
No, it's federal only, but
Okay. John, on the last sentence in the first paragraph, it says, in accordance with federal requirements, the school system will comply with the most restrictive procurement requirements for both federal, state law, as well as local policies. And it says, by the most restrictive, and then it lumps them all together.
And that's still true, so that, for example, you have a $90,000 equipment purchase threshold at which you have to do formal bidding over that threshold, and you continue to have to follow state law if it's more restrictive. But there are circumstances under which you might not have to apply that, and you still have to follow the federal guideline above between the $90,000 to $250,000 threshold.
this policy puts the federal at the most restrictive, and we don't violate the state guidelines as well.
All right. Other questions from the board?
I have one small question on page 13 of 14 of this document. Under exceptions and then sole source, it says, any sole source purchases costing $10,000 or more, and this is in red, so this is being added to this policy. Any sole source purchases costing $10,000 or more using ESSER funds must be pre-approved by the NC Department of Public Instruction before the ESSER funds can be encumbered. So I assume then that at least just this one part is only about ESSER funds. So this is not relevant for any other federal funds that we may get. This is just specifically, this one sentence is just specifically about ESSER funds. Is that, you want to look at it on my
I
screen?
believe that's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that changed just recently, and they sent us guidelines telling us that anything above $10,000 that was a sole source, we have to send them individually to the department. They are sending us back approvals one by one of the if they're a true sole source, and this is a new procedure that we have to follow.
Only for the ESSER funds, though, not other federal funds that we may have. Okay.
All right, other comments from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Queen. Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, I will read the items on the consent agenda. It's the minutes of the May 6, 2021 regular meeting, May 6, 2021 special called work session, minutes May 27, 2021 special call meeting, the personnel report, the approval of the 2020-2021 facilities report, renewal of the driver education contract with Mountain Professionals for 21-22 school year, the award of contract liability and property, auto and workers' compensation insurance, renewal of student picture packages for 21-22, mandatory student athletic insurance for 21-22, student parking fees, and policies for second reading is, the policy pertains to attendance, and it's 4,400.
Madam Chair?
We need to strike the award of the contract for the liability, property, auto, workers, and compensation insurance. That should not be on there this month.
Would you do that again, please?
We need to strike the award of the contract, liability, property, auto, and workers' compensation insurance.
All right, thank you. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of the award of contract for liability, property, auto, and workers' compensation insurance. Could,
Chair.
After the motion's made, I want to have the opportunity for comment on
I have
another
a
item.
motion. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. And Mr. Queen?
Yes, ma'am. It came to my attention under the student accident plan for athletics that there is an exclusion for cheerleaders, drill team, music, band, choir, orchestra, and pep squad are all excluded under this coverage. And while I realize we have deadlines to meet to get this athletic plan in place, I will support that. But I want to go on record as to Mr. Ball, he's aware of it and he's looking into it. But I do really feel like with the instance of more elaborate routines the cheerleaders go through, tossing kids in the air and that kind of thing, that I think that they should have some type of insurance policy available.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I have a motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an item to further discuss, and I'm going to let Mr. Henning speak to that.
Madam Chair, as we're understanding from your administration, the crowds that weren't allowing people who had signed up for public comment to come in earlier have thinned out. And now I believe it's safe to and will be peaceable and manageable to allow anyone who's still here and wishes to address the board to come in and make public comment. There's nothing wrong with you taking it a little bit out of order. And in the name of transparency, that I know is something you're all interested in being, I would recommend you do open it back up to public comment at this time.
Could I get a consensus that that's the feeling of the board? Would you nod your head, please?
Yes.
Thank you. That's a consensus. Yeah, if you could make that happen.
Madam Chair, could we recess for 5 minutes to
Sure.
recess and then come back?
Second.
Sure. Yes, you can recess. We'll call a recess for 5 minutes, Mr. Emery, and then we will come back. This is a continuation of the Buncombe County School Board of Education regular meeting. And the next item on the agenda is the information agenda, and it has the financial reports for us. At this time, would you like to speak to that, John, the decision that we made? Or have we already done that?
I feel like we've done that adequately.
We're going to hear public comment. We have decided that there's some people that signed up and followed the rules, and we will be happy to hear from them at this time.
Okay, it'll be a moment, please, while they queue up our next person for public comment.
Thank you, they're coming.
Ma'am?
Yes, hello. My name is Lori Timmerman. I live in West Asheville. I'm here to speak against any vaccine mandates for children especially, but for any ages. The vaccine has safe alternatives for treatment for any COVID cold flu symptoms, such as ivermectin, which is being used successfully throughout the world with 50 study trials and a recent ivermectin summit. The vaccines are not proven, they're not safe past any 2-month date for the vaccine trials. And in fact, FDA in their own presentation listed side effects as brain inflammation, stroke, heart disease, autoimmune disease, and many of these symptoms are now being experienced with the VAERS system reporting over 4,000 or 5,000 deaths and 50,000 serious injuries. So I really strongly recommend against any vaccines for children. As you know, the CDC stated the children have a 99.997% recovery rate. They're not at effect for this virus. They have natural immunity. Under 50 is 99.98%, so most of the working people. And what's proven by the frontline doctors is there's safe protocols for the 3 phases of early treatment is the key for this, using antivirals, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine, as well as, for the phase of inflammation, and then the phase for the anticoagulants. So I personally have from my doctor here in Asheville a prescription for prevention of any COVID or COVID flu variants, prescription for once a week for ivermectin. So the NIH has said they're neither for nor against, and that means physicians in the US can provide this life-saving drug. And the testimonials, the 50 studies, the doctors that presented in the ivermectin summit is truly astounding and truly breathtaking. So I'd like the panel to take all of this information in consideration, really do due diligence, especially with what we're seeing right now with the release of the emails for Fauci. We're finding that maybe the policy of the Buncombe County Schools was not necessary at all for this whole last year to mask children. And we know that it's almost like it restricts oxygen. You rebreathe in your own CO2. Just to be respect bodily sovereignty, bodily integrity, and not have any intrusive types of mandates either for masks or for a medical procedure, which is actually against the Nuremberg Code. So I respectfully submit my comments.
Thank you. Could I have that again, please?
My name is Lori Timmerman, and it's 2 N's at the end of the name, and resident in West Asheville.
Thank you. As our next public comment steps up, I'd like to remind you we'll have 3 minutes until the microphone will automatically turn off. Please start by stating your name and where you're from, and I will give you a signal with my hand at 1 minute as well as at 30 seconds. We are ready for our next person. Please step up to the microphone.
Thank you, and good day. My name is Gardner Hathaway. I'm a resident of East Asheville. I have 3 children, and they're 38, 40, and 42. I feel like it's a great privilege to be able to come into this hallowed room and speak with you all. I was here at the last school board meeting, and we were denied entry. And it was said that no one wanted to speak, when that was clearly not the truth. So I was disappointed then, but I'm very happy to be here now, and my comment is very brief, and my sign says it all. And the previous speaker here just referred to Dr. Fauci's recent email release, which lets us all know what we already knew, that masks do not stop virus transmission. And to insist that our children, who are at little to no risk for this virus, spend their day in school with a mask so they can't breathe good, so they can't see good. What if they have a runny nose? What if they have a cough? What if they have a snot? You know, it's child abuse. It really, really is. But scientifically, as was previously stated, it lowers their blood oxygen levels. And it raises the carbon dioxide levels. And that suppresses their immunity, which is the last thing we want right now. Not to mention they can't smile and laugh and see each other's faces. Please reconsider. I know it's not in your hands, but know what's going on and help free the children from this bondage. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're ready for our next public comment, please. Again, I will remind you we'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone will turn off automatically. We are ready for our next public comment. Thank you. And please start with your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Andrea Olson, and I live in East Asheville.
Thank you.
Okay. When does the timer start?
When
Oh, it
you're
already
ready.
started. Okay. So your public comment rules, which we signed on our way in by mutual agreement, don't state anywhere that we have to wait outside like animals. Our First Amendment right says that we have the right to peacefully assemble. I would request that in the August meeting, you please allow everybody who comes to your meeting to come inside and experience a public forum, as our Constitution says that we have the right to. Thank you. We are a very peaceful group of many, many different local groups. We support our law enforcement 100%, so there's nothing to fear. I have a 10-year-old and have 4 other children. 4 of mine are being homeschooled forever now because of this last year. I will never put them in a mask. My 10-year-old has been in a mask for the last 8 weeks. I traded that for 3 years of homeschool with him coming up, so I get him home for middle school. But it's broken my heart to have him there with Asperger's, which is a form of autism, wearing a mask every day. It's not okay with me. The mandate was reversed by Governor Cooper a couple of weeks ago. These children should not be forced to wear masks. These children should not be forced to social distance. This is child abuse, I do believe. I have my master's in psychology. I've worked with children for a long time, and I have 5 of my own. We are instilling fear in our children. If you want to be responsible for causing a whole generation to be fearful that they are going to infect other people with something that medicine has proven that they can't even transmit. They don't carry it. They don't transmit it. They have a 99.99997% chance of recovering if they get COVID. They have missed out on their education. When my kindergartner was put into virtual school, we had an iPad in our house for a week and everybody went ballistic. I couldn't stomach it, so I took her out and I learned how to homeschool properly. The homeschool percentage in the United States has skyrocketed because of this. We are the 2nd largest district in North Carolina behind Mecklenburg County, the homeschoolers. Yes, sir. Anyway, 12 to 15-year-olds and getting vaccinations without parental consent, this can possibly make them unable to have children. There are scientific studies out there. We are jumping the gun. Now, if I'm allowed to go to Lowe's and I'm allowed to go to Walmart, and I have been this whole last year without a mask, without showing proof of vaccination, then my children should be allowed to go to school and not have to wear a mask. If you can go to the mall right now and not wear a mask and do all your shopping and be close to people, then our children, who are our future, should be allowed to breathe freely. Please protect our kids. Please make this go away. They don't deserve this. They really, really need each other. Children and adults alike, scan the room to make sure everybody's safe. We look at all of your faces, all of it. And if they can't see half the face, they can't feel safe. And if we're really wanting to make our children feel safe, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Please protect our children.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming. Oh, you dropped something, ma'am. Thank you. We all ready for our next public comment? Again, for those in line, we will have 3 minutes to speak, and your microphone will turn off after 3 minutes. I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds. If you could start by saying your name and where you're from, sir. And please begin when you're ready.
My name's David Hurley, and I live in East Asheville. This is the second time that we've tried to come into this building, and if you would, while I'm talking, can everybody just pay attention to me for a minute so you remember my face when I'm talking? No? Okay, I didn't think so. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, you've received affidavits from all of us. This day has been in the works for about 244 years now. We, everyone in Buncombe County and everyone in America, are to blame. The authority of the government is derived by the people and only by the people. It is we, the people, that unknowingly transform public servants, such as yourself, into elected officials. But here, right now, at this school board meeting, we are taking our power back. Thomas Jefferson said, when the government fears the people, there's liberty. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. We, the people, hereby instruct the entire Board of Education of Buncombe County to resign. All we asked for was a simple response to our affidavit. We got nothing. You guys seem to forget that we're the ones that elected you. We elected you to be a voice for us. But instead, you deny us our rights, according to Article 1, Section 12 of the North Carolina Constitution, which says that we have the right to assemble together to instruct our representatives. I'm going to tell you guys, because I don't think you all know, that a pandemic doesn't put our rights on hold. It is in y'all's best interest to understand the oath to which you swore to. You raised your right hand and you said, I swear to the North Carolina Constitution and to the Constitution of the United States. Yet you don't act like it. I would instruct each and every one of you to understand, actually read those constitutions. Read the documents for which you signed your name to. It's very important. Now, I'm going to urge you guys one more time, resign. This isn't going to end. We're going to keep doing this. Unless you decide at some point to start acting constitutionally, we will eventually get you guys out of these seats, and we will put people in these positions that want to listen to the people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. As that person steps up again, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone will turn off automatically. One moment, please. All right, sir, before we begin, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, sir. I'll give you a signal at 1 minute, also at 30 seconds, and if you could start with your name and where you're from, and start when you're ready, please.
Steve Parkin, West Asheville. I don't have children, but I've taught millions of them, literally millions in my life as a retired teacher. The number one thing they tell you as a teacher to do to make sure your kids are learning is to look at their faces. I'm going to say that again. It's not to take a test. It's not to do an assessment. It's to look at their faces. When you put masks on children, that is an impossible task. I wonder what your scores will be. I wonder what the nation's scores will be this year. I get a little tired of educators saying we support you as teachers and then do the contrary. Sometimes I wonder if elected officials actually listen to the news. You might want to check out the Fauci emails, where the guru of all of this, the god of the COVID-19, has said that masks are ineffective, and there's more. I hope you look those up. I taught in California. I use the word fled because that's what I did 9 years ago. I fled a beautiful home, a once beautiful place in Southern California on the beach with a view, to come to Asheville. And now I find the things that brought me here are going away. This group that's here tonight is not the group that tore down the monument, defaced Asheville, sprayed graffiti everywhere. We are the peaceful ones, and yet we're being treated tonight like we're the enemy. Far from it. But I do want to appreciate, because I've spoken at other board meetings, not here, this is the first board meeting that I've spoken to where the board members actually are looking me in the eyes. So I do applaud you for that. The narrative that you're getting is wrong. We've done the research. Millions of people in America have done the research. Look on the CDC, if you could even trust them anymore. This is nonsense. This is destroying kids' lives. Last thing I will say, my niece teaches in California, high school math. She said every single one of her students, save 10, she should have flunked, but they would not allow her to do so. We have entire populations of kids that checked out of school this year. I'm sure it's happening here too. And the cheating.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. As we wait for our next public comment, again, we'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone will turn off automatically at that time. Hi. Please, when you start, say your name and where you're from, and I will give you a hand signal at 1 minute as well as at 30 seconds. There's also a timer on the table. All right, thank you. Please begin when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, my name is Denise, and I'm from Leicester in Asheville. And I'm here to echo what a lot of the other speakers are saying about masking of children being child abuse. I feel very, very strongly about this. I recently found a study about masking showing that long-term masking with both cloth and surgical mask results in breathing in fibers from the cloth and surgical mask. And if it's done over many months and even years, the fibers will collect in the bottom of the lungs and can result in a horrific disease called pulmonary thrombosis. This is horrific. This is not what we want our children to be forced into facing. So I don't think that, I don't know that I can get through to you with any kind of studies, but I'm appealing to your hearts. We don't need to abuse children this way. They need to share their faces. He's dropped the mask mandate for other parts of the area. Why not for schools? Children have a 0.003 risk. It is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. You cannot say that you haven't heard about the dangers of masking, because I'm sure you're getting very well educated, and just know that you will be held accountable if you keep forcing this on our children. If not in this world, in the next, you will be held accountable. So I'm asking you to take the mask off the children. Thank you.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. we're ready for our next public comment. Please step up to the microphone. Thank you. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. All right, please start with your name and where you're from, and I'll give you a signal in 1 minute and also 30 seconds. Okay, please start when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Hillary Brown. I am a resident of Buncombe County. I'm extremely nervous speaking in publicly, so pardon me of that. Off the top of my head, I would like to say that I was raised by 2 public school teachers. That one is still a physical education teacher to this day. So I do have admiration for the public schools. All my life I've had admiration for teachers. I, however, in the last couple years, decided to take my children out of public school because of the things I saw coming across and down the pipeline across the nation with critical race theory for start. I was raised to believe that God created everybody equally, that we were all children of God, that I treated my neighbor as myself, regardless of race, skin color, anything like that. And so I raised my children that God made us all different, and it's beautiful. With critical race theory being in public schools, I feel that we're going to try and treat racism with racism. And we're turning it to where whites are now called the suppressors and, others are being oppressed. And I believe it could do more harm than good, changing I don't want my kids being raised thinking that they have a privilege over any other race, period. I think for someone to say that, if I were that race, I would be extremely offended. I don't want my children thinking there's any way that they have something over somebody else. So if I were that race, I would be extremely offended to hear somebody of an opposite race say that to me. And then pertaining to masks, I'm definitely glad I have my kids homeschooled. There's been studies out there was a study published out in Nature magazine earlier last year where they did a 10-month study from the first people affected with COVID in Wuhan, where they studied approximately close to 10 million people. Out of that, there were 300 that had asymptomatic cases out of all that tested positive. And then, so from that 300 that had asymptomatic, that were asymptomatic, they did contact tracing and extrapolated the study to a further 12 to 1,300 from those original 300 people, and they followed them for 4 weeks. And after the 4 weeks, not a single one had contracted COVID.
Thank you. Sorry, it's been 3 minutes. Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment. One moment as our next public comment is prepared to enter the room. A reminder that you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Your microphone will shut off automatically. If you could start with your name and where you're from, and I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds. Please begin.
Good evening. My name is David Zuzak, and I'm from Fletcher. I am currently a student at A.C. Reynolds High School, and today I wanted to talk about wearing masks in school and how that has been an extreme struggle for me and several of my peers. So when we went into school this year, every day we went wearing our masks, and I would sit there in class, and by the end of the day, I would have a severe migraine or headache, and that would be very hard. It was very hard for me to focus on my assignments, and in the end, I struggled. Said my 4th period class, I ended up with a 67 at the end of the year because I was just trying to focus, and I just couldn't get over my headaches because those masks, they makes it harder to breathe, and that's not good for anybody when their breathing is restricted and it is not, there's a lot of chemical processes in the brain. I'm sorry. But I don't really have much to say that I really urge the board to really think about how the masks affect not only our mental states, but just how it affects our grades and our education, because we go to school to learn, and it's hard to learn when you have different factors in restricting that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're ready for our next public comment, please. As you step up, sir, I'll remind you that you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone will automatically turn off. I'll give you a motion at 1 minute as well as 30 seconds, and please start with your name and where you're from.
All right, I'm Ken from Black Mountain. As you consider, board members, the future curriculum, please do not institute any critical race theory curriculum. It's divisive, and I don't want our children developing these prejudicial values. It causes folks to blame rather than take responsibility. It encourages retribution rather than working together to educate each other and work together to solve differences. It focuses on racial differences instead of common goals and interests. It misses out on good historical examples and only teaches what meets the theory agenda. It only points out bad in history and community and not what is good. I'm tired of schools dictating culture and morals that contradict parental teaching. Please don't approve critical race theory in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Again, for those waiting in line, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone will automatically turn off at that time. You'll be given a signal at 1 minute as well as 30 seconds.
Hi, here.
Hi. If you could start with your name and where you're from.
Yes, my name is Gloria Michael, and I live in Black Mountain, and I'm a homeschool parent. And I just want to talk to you some about the CRT. In the 1960s, the civil rights movement sought to fulfill Martin Luther King's dream of each child being judged by the content of their individual character, not as a member of a specific group of people. CRT is in direct opposition to civil rights. Dr. White T. Walker co-authored an essay in 2015 in which he spoke of CRT as taking us in the wrong direction, separating even elementary school children into explicit racial groups, emphasizing difference instead of similarities, is a Marxist theory that places individuals in groups based on race and assigns moral value to all persons in that group. This creates division and racism rather than eliminating it. It is also known to divide based on socioeconomic status, political association, and gender. It is indoctrinated in our children. The First Amendment guarantees our freedom of speech, yet critical race theory seeks to limit it by not allowing opposing viewpoints. We are also allowed freedom of thought and belief, as is evidenced by the Supreme Court's decision that a child cannot be forced to salute the American flag in school. Educators should seek to find each student's individual talents and gifts, nurture and develop them. Lessons need to be developed that help students striving to show their abilities and praising their classmates' talents. Children should be sharing their abilities and teaching each other, growing together in community rather than separating in specific blocks. And I appreciate y'all's time and hope y'all have a blessed day. And be blessed. Oh, Gloria Michael, Black Mountain.
Okay, I talked over you. One more time.
Gloria Michael, Black Mountain.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good blessed day.
Thank you. All right, we are ready for our next public comment, please. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi.
You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone will turn off automatically after 3 minutes. If you could start with your name and where you're from, and I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and 30 seconds as well. Please begin.
All right, my name is Tamara Parker. I live in Arden. I have 2 children, one that I've had to bring home and homeschool through this, and one who is still currently in school. One of my concerns is the masks. One of my children had a very traumatic experience at the dentist office with someone who had a mask on. Her heart rate goes up to 145 beats a minute just being around people with masks, okay? This stuff is ridiculous. All right, here's some settled constitutional law. This is from the Supreme Court. Emergency does not create power. Emergency does not increase granted power or remove or diminish restrictions imposed upon power granted or reserved. The Constitution was adopted in a period of grave emergency. Its grants of power to the federal government and its limitations of the power of the states were determined in the light of emergency, and they are not altered by emergency. All right, this is the North Carolina Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, all political power is vested in and derived from the people. All government of right originates from the people, is founded upon their will only, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. So the power of this government does not come from you. It does not come from Roy Cooper. It doesn't come from any elected official. It comes from the people. And you guys need to understand that. And yes, you do need to resign. You ignored us. You are ignoring the people. And you do not deserve to be in these positions. You swore an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And one more thing, every citizen of this state owes paramount allegiance to the Constitution and government of the United States, and no law or ordinance of the state in contravention or subversion thereof can have any binding force. Therefore, Roy Cooper's mandates have no binding force. Thank you.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Hi, as you enter, I'll remind you, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone does automatically turn off. If you could start with your name and where you're from, and I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and at 30 seconds.
Okay.
Please begin.
My name's Pauline Orban, and I'm from Black Mountain, North Carolina. I'm in Buncombe County. And I'm sad what's happening in our country. It's really sad to me. I don't like what's happening in school. My kids are grown, and I have grandkids. And my grandchildren, thank goodness, go to Christian school. But what's happening is you're teaching racism in our school. I don't understand that. Critical race theory is teaching them to be racist. And it just makes me really sad. I hope there's hope for our country, but I'm starting to question it. Thank you.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. For those in line, I'll remind you, you have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone does automatically turn off at that time. You'll be given a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds. Looks like we're preparing our next public comment. just a moment. They are bringing people into the building. Hello, welcome. Hi, you'll have 3 minutes to speak if you didn't hear this already. The microphone will automatically turn off. If you could start with your name and where you're from, and I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds. All right, please begin.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Ginny Judd. I live in the Reynolds District in East Asheville. I have a son who is a rising junior, and he's been forced to wear a mask now for however long this has been going on. I didn't appreciate the opportunity to not speak at the last board meeting. I came here fully prepared to tell my story of the day before the meeting when I took my son to the dentist. And my son, who's never had a cavity in his life, he's 15 years old, and the dentist told me he had so many cavities in his mouth that he couldn't even count them. This has been proven to be a result, as of wearing masks, from the extra bacteria that is being accumulated from wearing them for long periods of time. And I think that besides all of the mental health effects and the ability to not see people's faces, the ability to get this programmed of people are diseases and you should be afraid of your fellow students and your teachers and all that nonsense that's going on. Now we have this problem of people getting, who knows how many cavities my son's gonna have as a result of this. And I feel like this should be a choice that we have to make, whether my son is gonna get cavities from coming to school. It's just not, it shouldn't be something that people are facing. How am I gonna pay for all this dental work that he may have as a result of this? I think you guys should do the right thing. I see many of you sitting here without masks on your faces, and I hope that this will continue on with the students, and next year will be mask-free, tyranny-free, vaccine-free, and fear-free. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are ready for our next public comment, please. Hi, ma'am, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone does automatically turn off after that time. And please start with your name and where you're from. I'll give you the 1 minute signal as well as 30 seconds. All right, please begin.
My name is Alina Rosiak, and I live in Asheville. My children are grown, but I have grandchildren that I'm very concerned about. I made up the sign, enforce our constitutional rights to be heard. It means a lot to me. I came from Poland, a country that has been run by the communists for a long time. And when I'm seeing that our rights as Americans are being violated by this board, it really concerns me. It breaks my heart. I request that any of you who are not feeling up to the par of learning what the Constitution of the United States is all about, please step down for your own children's sake, for your grandchildren's sake. This is a country that we love. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are ready for our next public comment, please. Hello, before we begin, we'll have 3 minutes. The mic automatically does turn off after 3 minutes. I'll give you a signal at 1 minute as well as 30 seconds. If you could please start with your name and where you're from.
Good evening. I am from Buncombe County, of course, in Candler. My name is Julie Gunn, and I am here to reiterate, unfortunately, I must say the same things. We must stop the mask mandates. They are unhealthy. We did this back in the 1800s with the Spanish flu pandemic. In that era, people were masked. In about 8 months, we had a massive amount of people that had lung problems, cancers, and all sorts of things. We must stop that immediately. And I mirror the things that the woman from Poland has said. We are under duress here. We need to look up our Constitution. We should be teaching this in the schools. I feel that you people here this evening and last week were not constitutionally compliant. It is upsetting to me, and I see that we are all on a slippery slope. We are the public. We pay your salaries. We want us and all of you to follow the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of North Carolina. We are the first state. We must understand that it has to be properly followed. I have taken my kids completely out of school for this reason. I would not perpetrate child abuse on them. And you all here in this room and on a broader place as far as the country have to start waking up. It is not proper to mask your children. It's not proper to mask yourselves. 25% of your breath for oxygen is missing once you've masked for 10 minutes. You heard the young man speak earlier, 17 years old, and got bad grades because he couldn't breathe. That is deplorable. The children that were to graduate last year were upset from their whole graduation ceremonies. Everything was amok. You must start doing some research, and you must be constitutionally compliant. We have filed paperwork to have you all removed because you are not constitutionally compliant. I am standing before you this evening to make you understand that this is serious business. We are a free country, and we are standing outside demanding our right to assemble together and bring forth a positive situation, positive education for our children. We are asking that and demanding it. We have filed paperwork. If you cannot become constitutional compliant, then it must be time for you to step down. I thank you very much for letting us speak this evening, and you must do your research.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. For those in line, I would remind you, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone does turn off automatically at that time. I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and please start with your name and where you're from. Please begin.
Hi, my name is Peter Steckel. I live in North Asheville. I have a son who goes to school in the county, and I'm really unhappy about the mask requirement. And I know the statistics and the science have come out about how this is not the best for children in terms of what they need for their health, for their well-being, for their freedom, for their ability to express themselves. I know Dr. Fauci has conflicted in himself about this, and now the evidence is coming out about that. There are over 1,000 doctors now that have reported about how masks do not really protect against this virus in terms of the real construction of the mask and what really happens with it. So I really want my son to come back to a positive school environment where he can be with other kids and he can learn, and he has the ability to socialize and participate in sports without this confinement that I feel like is hindering him and all the other students and the teachers and the staff. So I ask you to reconsider, because we don't have another choice, and we're running out of choices. And my feeling is that there will be a win-win situation in allowing children to breathe free and to have that experience in their wellness and their health and being the kids that they're meant to be in school without this imposition, where we don't have the science backing that this is really helping them in health and well-being. So I really hope you can reconsider that as a way of helping the entire school environment be a positive environment for the growth and education of the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are ready for our next public comment, please. As you come in, I'll remind you that you will have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone does automatically turn off at that time. You'll have a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds, and please start with your name and where you're from.
Hello, my name is Jay File. I'm from Black Mountain, and I am absolutely appalled at what is happening in our country and in our schools today. All of you are breaking the law with the way we're having to come in with this ridiculous plastic thing here in front of me. The air goes all around it. Where has the common sense gone in our schools? And I'm very thankful to see most of you have taken off your masks. I'd like it to be a choice of kids in school, what they do, whether they mask or not. I'd like it to be a choice, a freedom of choice of the individual, whether they get a vaccine or not. I personally am not going to get a vaccine, but nobody should be forced to get a vaccine. And we shouldn't require it for kids in school. I have a number of friends who have children who will be damaged all their life because of childhood vaccines. This vaccine is an experiment. We don't know what it's going to do yet. But I already personally know friends who have died within a week of taking it. So we definitely should not be pushing vaccines on our kids or requiring it for them to go to school. At the same time that I say that, I'm a grandmother now, so my kids are growing here. But if I had kids, I would not be sending them to school because of what's being taught. The critical race theory teaches people that they're bad. You're either an oppressor or a victim. What a bunch of garbage. We are all sovereign beings, and we all are important. There's not such a thing as an unessential person or an unessential child. And I have lots of friends that were school teachers. I'm older. Most of them have retired, but they talked about their last couple years of teaching to me. And it's getting so that they're no longer being able to freely teach and encourage kids' enthusiasm on a subject because it's micromanaged to teach, to put the correct answers on the test, not to critically think, not to creatively think, but to become a robot, to become somebody who just repeats the mainstream narrative, and the mainstream narrative is being pushed by people that do not have our well-being at heart. And until we each individually can stand up and say we need to get more critical thinking back in our school systems, we need to get more love. Kids need hugs. They need to be able to play with each other. They need to be able to see the faces. Suicides have gone away.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the mic does turn off automatically. I'll give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning. And please start with your name and where you're from.
My name's Hope Bishop, and I live in Candler. I just want to reiterate some of the stuff that was said before about the scientifically wearing masks that made no difference, no positive difference that I see. As stated recently, Fauci has said they don't make a difference too. I'm appalled that we're not allowed to come into this public forum. We agreed to the conditions. Also, how are you going to put masks on children and then put them in virtual schools? Are they ever going to have human contact? You realize they learn through social cues and human connection. When you're wearing a mask, you can't read someone's emotion. These are important things in the development of children. The critical race theory, I think. I don't understand how it seems that the differences are always being pointed out. We need to focus on the similarities, not the differences. We're all humans. We're all here living today in this context. We didn't live in the context of like the Vance Monument. So I think all the kids are learning by this is fear, and this can't be the new normal. I don't think it's right. And I think that if the school board doesn't agree with the majority of the parents, maybe the school board should resign, because if you want to be able to work hand in hand with someone that's dealing with your children, you don't want to have to be forced to sit outside. Thank you for my time.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Hi, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The mic does automatically turn off at that time. I'll give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning. And please start with your name and where you're from. Please begin when you're ready.
My name is Brian Shepard. I'm from Candler. So we live in a society where during a pandemic, it's okay to protest and paint the town. It's okay to go by the masses to Black Friday. That's okay, but it's not okay to send our children to school without a mask so they can learn better and just have more fun. That's wrong. That's wrong. So where do we start to get common sense and good logic back into this thing? Well, it starts with the people. They're here. They're telling you how they feel. Now you all got to do your part and do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, could you?
Brian Shepard.
Thank you, sir. We are ready for our next public comment. Hello, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Hello. The mic will automatically turn off at that time. I'll give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning. And please start with your name and where you're from. Please begin when you're ready.
Okay, I'm Sarah Martin. I live in Barnardsville, North Carolina. And I didn't know to love my country until this year, and I realized the things that we've had and I have taken for granted as a citizen, and so I've been trying to be more active and aware of what's going on in my local community and my local government. I was here last month and barred from participation in my local government, and that and I was here to comment on the masking, which everyone who's gone before me, I just want to say I agree with everything that I've been able to hear. And it should be known for the people that aren't able to be in this room because they're watching on the internet, that there are a lot of people that wanted to speak tonight, that they all went home because they had said we may not speak. So many people have already left, and it just feels like extremely sad, because it feels like a real hit to our constitutional rights to assemble, to speak, to be peaceful, and that's definitely my heart, and it's really sad. I think masking is wrong. I agree with everybody who said that for this time the mask. I was going to read the Fauci email, but I think someone's already done that, I do believe. I agree with what they were saying before about CRT not being in schools. Yeah, you can do the right thing at this point. And please allow people to speak when they're outside and we don't eat dinner and we drag our kids around because we want to be heard. And it feels very disrespectful and rude for you to bar us out of the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Hello, please step up to the microphone. You will have 3 minutes to speak. The mic does automatically turn off at that time. I'll give you a 1 minute, 30-second warning, and please start with your name and where you're from.
Hi, y'all. I'm Richard Liston. I live in Buncombe County. I don't smile much because I'm grouchy. I also don't smile much because when my mother was pregnant with me, the doctors prescribed tetracycline. And for the rest of my life, when I went to the dentist, I opened my mouth and they looked at my teeth and they said, "Oh, the doctors must have prescribed tetracycline to your mother when she was pregnant. It wasn't tested enough." Would it surprise you that the pharmaceutical companies and the media are creating an atmosphere of fear for their own benefit? Would that be a shock to you? Wouldn't to me, because that's basically what's happening. And I expect more from my Board of Education to be subject to, that kind of poor information management. So I'm here in support of all the other people who live here and want to see the right thing done. And I'd ask you to either, to do the right thing, either change your minds about some things or resign, because in 5, 10 years, do you really want to discover that, oh, this was actually not healthy for our kids and you were a part of making it happen? So think about that when you're trying to go to sleep at night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Hello, welcome. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the mic does turn off after 3 minutes. Please start with your name and where you're from, and I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and at 30 seconds. All right, please begin.
I won't be long. My name's Gerard. I live in Barnardsville. Thank you for giving me a voice. First, I want to say my family and I pray for you all as people of influence on the children of our community. And I bless you to have a good effect on our kids and on our school system. People have been talking about critical race theory. I just want to remind you that your job as educators, or even maybe some men are facilitators of education, is to teach people how to think, not to indoctrinate people. Critical race theory is an interesting theory, kind of clever, a lot of problems with it, and I don't oppose the teaching of it as a theory, but I oppose the preaching of it in an effort to indoctrinate people into a worldview. The masks, everybody said everything about the masks. Masks hurt people. I just want to admonish you that if you continue to participate in this demonic campaign of fear, dehumanization, and deception, that it will be better for you on the day of judgment to have had a millstone thrown around your neck and be tossed into the sea. Just a little word of warning about all that. And the other thing is, I'm really concerned about what happened last month. When my wife came to speak to you and address you all, she signed her name on a list, and somebody came outside and lied to her, saying that nobody had signed up on the list. Maybe you got some fine print, the way you can justify that kind of thing. I just want to say that's messed up, and we expect more from y'all. And again, thanks for your help. I hope you do the right thing. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir. We are ready for our next public comment, please. For those in line, I would remind you you will have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone will automatically turn off at that time. We'll give you a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds. Hello. Hopefully you heard our time limit is 3 minutes. Okay, excellent. And if you're willing, please share your name and where you're from.
I'm Maddie. I'm from East Asheville.
Thank you. Please begin when you're ready.
I wanted to comment about some things. I wanted to ask why the 27 affidavits that we sent, we have not received an answer. I am asking for all of you to resign because our constitutional is not being upheld and our rights that we have asked for. I also want to comment on my son that goes to school having headaches, not able to focus. I have a small toddler as well that is scared when people come up to him with a mask because he cannot read their emotions. He doesn't know if they're angry, he doesn't know if they're happy or scared. I have a son that's literally in class being refused to be able to drink and eat because a teacher is so scared that she's going to catch COVID and literally is afraid. So she's literally having the students go outside of the room to drink and eat if they want to snack on anything or if they want to just drink water. Then tells them that it's okay to get a vaccine without the parental permission. A teacher told my son, just to let you know, if you want to get the vaccine without your parental permission, you can go get it. That is not acceptable. We are their parents. We are in charge of them until they're 18. You cannot tell me that they can make their decision on their own. Like, that is not what children under 18 can do. They cannot make their own decisions. I'm asking you to please stop the mask wearing. I can see all of you guys. I see your faces. I appreciate you not having your masks on, but it's not right for my toddler to be at a playground and other people still having masks on because we have scared people so bad that children are scared to even be around each other. I'm not even kidding. I was at a playground and there was a parent with a child that had a mask on and my child got near them. He's 4. And they ripped him away because they thought he was going to give them COVID. We need to end this masks. We need to get normalcy back in school. We need to get it in Buncombe County back normal. At public parks, we need to take those signs down. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's just take one moment. Hi, come on in. I can give him this mic. Okay, excellent. Welcome. Come on in. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. All right. And please start with your name and where you're from. I'll give you 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay. My name's Vicki Cook, and I live in Barnesville, North Carolina. And, you know, I'm just a country girl. I ain't nothing special. But I think a lot of you were born in my era. And you went to school when I went to school. And it's totally different now. You're trying to teach racism to our kids, you know, and you're making them wear masks like animals. That's going to make them sick. And I just don't understand that kind of thinking. And you guys were over there laughing at us. You know, I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's a bit funny. And why do you not love America anymore? You know, this ain't the America we grew up in at all. And I hope you realize that and think about your childhood and how our grandkids are going to have for a childhood. It's not going to be like ours if we don't stop this now. We have to stop it now. Please, and thank you for listening to me. That's all I had to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. Please come in. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone will automatically turn off after 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'll give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning, okay?
All right.
Please start with your name and where you're from.
Okay. My name's Logan. I live in North Asheville. I can't believe nobody's brought this up yet, but it's not affecting children. The virus that we maybe believed, maybe don't believe in, is not affecting children. So for this mandate to still be in place for our kids and not in old folks' homes or places where it seems more pertinent, it seems really, really counterintuitive and absurd. And just for masks in general, you know, people who work in outfits that have actual contamination issues, work with OSHA and work with the health department to get these things fitted for their faces personally so that it's not spraying out the back, it's not spraying out the sides, it's not spraying under your chin, but that's where that particulate is going to go. So this kind of practice of enforcing mask mandates with kids, with children, it sets a precedent for any opportunistic pathogen that ever comes into public circulation ever again. And how often are we going to keep doing this and perpetuating this hypochondria on children? And that's going to, you know, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically affect them for the rest of their lives. It takes so much damage to undo what we're doing to kids who are so impressionable with this dystopian sign of something that we can't see, and we don't even know if it's evaporated yet, because the PCR is a completely meaningless, pointless test. And we've seen that with a plethora of science, just like we've seen the inefficiency, the inefficacy of masks has been proven with a plethora of science. So if you even have a shadow of doubt in your mind about the efficacy of these things, please take them off our kids and stop extorting parents, especially poor parents who can't afford to take their kids out of the clutches of the state, to practice this abuse with their children. Like the woman who spoke before me, Maddie, she's got kids she has to put in school, and she hates the fact that she has to send her kids to school in a mask. That she doesn't want to abuse her kids like that. But the state is forcing them, and I'm glad I'm seeing this exodus coming out of public schools. I just hope you guys can make the right decisions for parents that have to put their kids in school because they have to make a living. Please stop extorting those parents and let them make that health decision for their child. Thank you.
Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. For those in line, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone does automatically turn off at that time. I'll give you a signal at 1 minute, at 30 seconds as well. And please start with your name and where you're from. Please begin.
Hi, my name is Tara West. I live in East Asheville. I'm not sure what I'm going to say. I just wanted to add my support to all of the voices those brave voices of people who have come here to speak with you tonight. I appreciate that you're here. I believe that if you are serving on the school board, you care about children. I truly believe that. And so I really just want to ask you to look into your hearts, think about what you heard tonight, and do what you know is right. And I'll add one more thing. I have a PhD in social and health psychology. I don't consider myself an expert, but for what it's worth, My understanding of the research is that the masks are very damaging for children psychologically, and also critical race theory, as it's being taught, to the extent that it's being told as the only way to consider that, is also more likely to cause prejudice than it is to reduce prejudice. And I care very much about that. That was actually my main focus of study as a graduate student and as a postdoc, was prejudice reduction. So I'm very concerned about what I think is potentially causing more harm and more division between children. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. We'd like to call our next public comment, please. Welcome. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please start with your name and where you're from. When you have a minute left, I'll go like this. When you have 30 seconds, I'll go like this. All right, please start.
Hello, my name is Jubilee, and I live in Barnardsville. Martin. I'm going to sing the preamble for you. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Would like to call our next public comment, please. Welcome. I'd like to remind you, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone does automatically turn off. I'll give you a signal at 1 minute and also at 30 seconds, and please start with your name and where you're from.
My name is Michael Kobaldick from Asheville. I'm a father of a 4.5-year-old and a 10-month-old. I worked in Asheville City and Buncombe County schools as an educator years ago. I will be moving out of the county and homeschooling my children for many of the reasons already communicated to you by others. I'm here to communicate the only thing that really matters. I'm not here to preach to you or scold you, but to share the only thing that matters. 2 Chronicles says, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. And here's my story. Our inherent guilt separated us all from our perfect Creator, so our loving, merciful Father God became human, but without any guilt, to pay our eternal prison sentence, if each of us lets him. Jesus paid my sin penalty instead of me, and resurrected from the dead to free me at the age of 20 from my witchcraft and tarot reading, my Far East and New Age religious practices, my demon channeling and my lust and perversion, my alcohol and drug abuse, my hate towards cops and authority, my poverty mindset that kept me homeless, my leftist ideology and hope in politics, and my murder, abortion of my child. He washed away all of my guilt, and he can do that for you too if you want. Religion is mankind trying to earn their own way to God. Heaven is a personal relationship with the living Jesus. This is how to get to heaven in your heart. If you believe in your core and say aloud with your mouth that Jesus is your Lord and believe that he was raised from the dead, he can make your spirit new. You can become a citizen of heaven. This will be evidenced by the change in your thoughts and actions, by your receiving power and craving to do what God says is right. I ask you now to obey your conscience as guided by the living God in Christ and turn your life over to him if you do not know him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would call our next public comment, please. Hello. Before you begin, I'll remind you you have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone does automatically turn off at that time. I'll give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning. And please start with your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Laurie Fisher. I'm from Swannanoa, and thank you all for sitting here so long and listening to everybody. I'm the last one, so your day's almost over. I live in Swannanoa. I don't have any children. I've never had any interaction with any school board or school except to maybe call a dance for one a time or two. But I'm here because our whole nation, from the top to the bottommost school board, is under a massive assault. And with all due respect, if you don't have any awareness of this, you are compliant or incompetent or corrupt, because down to the most humble school board in the country is where these laws are going to interact with all of us. And I'm here to just beg you all to seek the guidance of your higher angels. Do not take the money. Do what's right. Envision a world where the next generation is going to be smarter and better than the previous generation, and the schools will enable them to do that in all levels of their education. So I just want to ask you, you're already in problem. You've all been served affidavits from keeping people out of here before, a major breach of your requirements as elected officials that we are paying. So I just want to ask you once again, seek the counsel of your higher angels. Imagine a free Asheville, a free country where children are learning well and they're safe and we're happy and we enjoy the freedoms that most of us were born into. We get to maintain them going forward. And that's all my short speech because it's a long day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One moment, we're verifying if there's another public comment. Two more? Okay. Please enter, sir. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and the microphone does automatically turn off. I'll give you a 1 minute warning and a 30-second warning, and please start with your name and where you're from. When you're ready.
My name is Cliff Odom. I live in East Asheville. My kids went to the Reynolds School District from grammar school all the way through graduating from Reynolds High School. They both graduated from college. Great education system here, and they learned well. They had great teachers. Of course, they didn't have to wear masks. My wife told me before I came tonight, she's a liberal, I'm a redneck, and she didn't tell me that, she already knew it, but she told me not to make a fool of myself and the family, and I'm trying not to, but I'm a Southern boy. I was raised in the Carolinas and lived in California most of my life. And I didn't want to raise my kids with the kind of stuff that was going on in California. So I wanted to come back where they were free, where they could run around and not worry about being harmed or hurt, and they get a good education, better than they could in California. And I love living here. This is my home. Built my own home 20-something years ago and lived here longer than I've lived in my whole life. My kids love the schools here. They love the college systems here. They learned a lot. I don't think, they never came home and told me that they were taught to be politically correct, how to say things a certain way. Gosh, my wife she was the director of human resources for the city of Asheville for a while. A darn good one, the best one they had. And she's politically correct. She's always catching me, telling me not to say that. It's not politically correct. But I love my kids. I love my neighbors. I have friends that are gay. I have friends that are of all colors, and colors mean nothing to me. Being raised in the South, I picked cottons with the black people. I was the only white guy out there, but I enjoyed being with them, and they enjoyed having me around. I have friends that are black, and I wouldn't have minded if my daughter would have married a person of any other color. I'm a person of color. I've got Cherokee in me, and I don't know, the mask thing is just something that I've seen a lot of things, doctors who've told me through the things that I've watched that they're not good for us. Our kids don't need the mask. They lose their sense of self-identity. You know, I can imagine kids going from high school or graduating from high school, or high school pictures are wearing a mask. Nobody knows what anybody looks like anymore. It's important to see your face, to see your smile, to see, you know, you can see a person through their eyes, but you also see through their whole face, you know, who they are. We're taught to love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. And if we can't love ourselves, then how are we going to love our neighbors? You guys have a vast responsibility to take these masks off and let our...
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We are ready for our next public comment, please. As you come in, I'll remind you have 3 minutes to speak. The microphone does automatically turn off. And please start with your name and where you're from.
My name is Holly Wheeler. I was from Colorado for 40 years, 50 years, and I just moved out here. About a few weeks ago, I just took possession of a house, and I now live in Asheville, and I'm really proud to be here. And I love what this city stood for and all the wonderful things that I've heard about it my whole life. And now that I'm here and I'm starting to see some of the underbelly of what's going on here and the decisions that people are making, I'm appalled, I have to say. I'm a clinical nutritionist. I had a private practice in Boulder for decades. And I think that you're probably getting the idea that all of us are sort of on the same page. And what I'm realizing is that the information that we are getting is very different than the information that most people are getting out in the world. And that's why we're speaking a different narrative. So when you hear CNN, all the mainstream media news, the Fauci gates, all the information that is being put out by mainstream media, you are only getting half of the picture at best. There are thousands of doctors who are stepping in right now and have been for months and months when they started to realize what was going on and that this is not a vaccine. You can't even call it a vaccine. It is an experimental drug, and they're experimenting on us. And most people don't know that. They're believing that this vaccine that they're calling is actually going to help them bring society back into normal living, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. So what I'm proposing is that when we come again, we will be bringing you, and in the meanwhile, we will be sending you things to educate you about the people that are getting censored left and right, front, center, upside down, where their voice of truth is not being heard. And you're not getting that information, and you need to be getting it so you can make informed decisions. The children are huge. They are our future. They are not being able to grow up with normal psychological and playing with each other and learning the way that children learn. So that's just the tip of the iceberg when you get into the rest of this, about the science that's behind, about what Fauci has done, about the confusion that is being put on all of us. You guys are doing your jobs. I totally know that. I totally know you're doing the best that you can. We all are. I was a huge activist in Colorado. I fought against fracking. And I was the #1 signature gatherer for the entire state to get it on the ballot. We got it up to 43%. I'm a huge activist.
Yes. I'm sorry, that is 3 minutes. Yes, thank you. And I am told that that is our last public comment of the evening, Madam Chair.
It is a truly wonderful feat. We have a special call meeting on June the 30th at 3:30 in the afternoon, and that's to close out the fiscal year and to do the superintendent's evaluation. Our next regular board meeting will be August 5th with a work session and updates and closed session beginning at 4 in Bowcatcher, and the open session will begin at 5:30 in the Minotaurium. I wish you all a very happy summer, uneventful summer, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. I believe there was a second in that. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This meeting is over.